Welcome to Tansson TV Plus. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mom.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yep, thank you so much for joining with us again.
We always love doing this. Mom, how is your week going thus far?
Brandon, my week is going fine. How about yours?
Mom, all is well here, and it's crazy to think how many episodes of The Facts of Life we've gone through.
Yep, we've gone through quite a few, and we still have several more to go through.
Well, yes. But, Mom, what are we speaking about here today?
Yes, just as a reminder for everyone to know, we are spending some time in January, February, and it looks like March too. I'm talking about some pivotal episodes of The Facts of Life. And so for this particular episode, it's called Small But Dangerous, and it's season 5, episode 9.
Yes, and this one released November the 16th of 1983.
Yes, and so we consider this to be a pivotal episode because it actually introduces Kelly, or I should say, formally introduces Kelly to the audience, because I think Kelly had been on a couple of times previously. But Kelly's in the theme song, and she was in the theme song long before she was really introduced as a character. And so we are formally introduced to her in this character and in this particular episode, and we're given her backstory. And so in this particular episode, Kelly kind of acts like she's part of a gang, and she acts like she needs protection money in order to save the store. And so she also claims to have many siblings. She claims to have had, of course, a caseworker who is helping her family. She said her father's been unemployed for 2 years. And these are just things she's told the group of girls, not all at one time, different things. The girls hear different things from different people. The girls hear from her different things depending on who's speaking to her at the time. Joe is the only one who does not believe what Kelly is saying. In fact, she calls her a smurf. Anyway, she does not believe her at all. But Kelly says she is part of a gang called the Lords of Discipline. And anyway, Joe is the one who kind of disproved everything that Kelly has said. And so this is that episode.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Brandon.
And before I even ask you what your thoughts were, I can probably speak for both of us and say we've spoken about a lot of episodes that we have really enjoyed. And this, I highly doubt is one of them. But, Mom, what is your thoughts?
I would say this was just okay. It is not one at all that I'm going back and looking at. However, we did watch this twice. And so it was interesting to actually hear her whole backstory. Well, I should say, yeah, a bit of her backstory. And so there were a few things I didn't pick up on, from years ago. And so that was interesting. To me, Kelly was one of those characters who was introduced, and then no one really thought about her. She was there, but I even now I watched Facts of Life, of course, when it was on at that time period. I don't remember my friends talking about her being introduced as a character. She was just there as a character. Your thoughts, Brandon?
I fully agree. I feel like she falls into the realm of possibility when there's a major change that happens with the show, and to fill some sort of void that you just need another person there, and then the person isn't needed as much and they disappear. And I see this in other shows, even ones we haven't spoken about. Like I think of in the show's Three's Company after the original landlords leave. In addition to the new landlord, Mr. Furley, there's this extra woman who's here, Lana, that's just there for a few episodes. She's a main part of it, and then she just disappears, nowhere to be heard of again.
Yeah, and you're correct. She is one of those characters, and to me, and this is my opinion only, nothing substantiated. I just think she was just a character who was introduced because the girls had actually they click very well together. They do, and they have their Eastland life that they have. Of course, Blair and Joe were in college at the time, but Kelly was introduced as a character who's more Tootie and Natalie's age. And so the assumption that you would kind of think is that she would go to Eastland, but apparently she does not. And so I think she was just another character to give some dynamic between for the girls and to kind of show a little bit of roughness. And and I think she was one also that I think Joe was supposed to be a role model for because Kelly claims that she admires Joe. It just didn't click. and I think that's just my personal thought, is that for the character as being introduced, she didn't click. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about and we spoke about this in the past few videos, but the character of Joe has really grown and evolved over the time that we first were introduced to her in the New Girl in season two, in that premiere. All that to say, though, is the character of Kelly makes me think about how Joe was sort of portrayed at the beginning, but to sort of a bigger degree, I suppose, and supposed to be I I think I guess as a contrast to uh, Joe's sort of mellowing out, let's say, over the past few seasons, but I don't think it was really necessary at this point. But I think again, going back to what I was saying a little bit earlier with my example of when you have a major change, at least at Eastland, there's a potential for numerous girls, even if they're all side characters, to show up. Whereas at Edna's Edibles, our new main setting, that there's not really a lot of room for extra people outside the customers, and so maybe this is their way of getting someone their age in by having someone that's, I guess, relatively not too far away from them.
Yeah, and I agree with that also, Brandon. It just, to me, it was not successful in how it was done. And like I said, I think in her introduction, she was just a little too rough. And it's kind of hard to kind of, I don't know. It was just kind of hard to me to kind of respect her later. Joe kind of, even though Joe had a rough time when she first came, Joe was not hateful or vengeful toward Mrs. Garrett or to the girls. She just had a rough side to her. And when Kelly was introduced, she had a hateful side, meaning that, I mean, she vandalized the place, she threatened, and Joe was not quite like that. Joe threatened, but Joe's threat was kind of just a Joe, and so she was, to me, not exactly as relatable for character wise as the others. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely does. And I think another dimension to that is, at the very least for Joe, after her first episode, she's living with them. And so there's numerous chances for her to get reacquainted with the rest of the girls, and that, an episode or two is not going to go by without them reconciling. Whereas Kelly is a customer, and for all, or actually a thief at that, where she has no real bearing in the sense of if she does something, there's no reason for them to really reconcile after that. Whereas for Joe, she lived with them. That was a part of the story. Whereas Kelly's more of an outsider in a story, and so yeah. And then even like what you were saying, this is her third appearance, but her first really substantial one. And so at this point, how do you really come back from being the thief and the vandal to being close? I mean, it can happen, but she'd need to be in the story more.
Yeah, she would have needed to be in the story more. And well, there was something I was going to say, but I've forgotten what I was going to say. So anyway, what I will say, what I did like about this episode was Joe's acting, and that is still Joe being rough and tough as much as Kelly was supposed to be. But however, Joe was defending Mrs. Garrett. She was defending her friends, and she was trying to get back what was done wrong by Kelly. So I don't know. Kelly just didn't, to me, mesh as a character, and maybe that's why she kind of disappeared pretty quickly.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, and I will say that her appearances were all just in season five, and so she's credited for 12 episodes. I don't believe she's actually in all 12 of those, and so that includes the Halloween show that we spoke about a few years ago. This episode, and then she's credited but was not in the Christmas show episode.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was happy to see that the character did not stay and that they moved on, because Facts Life did introduce other characters, which I think worked much better. And so in this case, the character mesh just didn't work.
Absolutely. And then I want to speak just briefly about even sort of the age part of it, because I think that the character of Kelly, they're also playing to be a bit younger than like, and then I guess she actually is, or how she's portraying, because they make a point of saying that, that she's younger and not as mature and hasn't been there all too often. But in the same regard of like in the way that they're playing it is that she would be more like a Natalie's age, and so but like you don't sort of see that with Natalie, and so that's sort of the point that they were trying to make within the episode, which even more adds to me the feeling that this isn't quite working. Like she's kind of gone too far at this point.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing, I'm sorry, and it finally hit me what I was going to say, was that with her backstory that she gave, we weren't seeing reasons why she was acting the way she was, in the sense that we're told that her parents actually, she had things in life that the others didn't have. And they made a point in saying that she had these fancy new items that we even had to look up to see what it was, and and so she never said that her parents did anything to her or anything. It was just a matter of this is just the way she grew up one way, and then she decided to portray herself in a different way.
Yeah, and then even like with the part of insinuating that she's sort of at first fearful of this gang that she's just knowledgeable of, and then that she's sort of a part of it, and then it's only her. The question is, where did that even come from to begin with? Because it didn't seem like she really wanted to cause any trouble per se, but she also insinuated that she's more or less the only person doing this. Like, but we're not really given a reason other than I think the only real motivation that we have from this is that she wants friends and she wants to earn Joe's respect. But does she think destroying Mrs. Garrett's business is a way to earn Joe's respect?
Yeah, so I don't know, just wasn't working for me. And so, luckily we have other characters we'll talk about later in which the kind of who the fit in with the group better.
Yes, we definitely did.
Yes. And Brandon, let me rate this for you, Brandon. I like to rate these shows 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. I actually gave this one a 3. Even though, the character wise of Kelly I didn't care for, I will say that Jo herself did a really good job acting in this episode.
Yes, and mom, I was debating about this, and I had to sort of think about where this stood in terms of the facts of life. And setting the character of Kelly aside, I would agree with the free assessment, because I will say something that the show's been good at is that even if we don't like a character or a storyline, is that it's overall really well written and it seems very true to the characters. It doesn't seem out of place for the show for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, Brandon.
But yes, I think if anything, it's just that the character of Kelly, I guess what we're overall saying is that we just don't think she's developed as a likable character at this point in time in this episode.
Yep, you said it very well, Brandon. All right, did we have any connections?
Yeah, so we did have some connections, and I want to share some little behind the scenes work that's been happening with the facts of life up to this point.
All right, go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, so first and foremost, this episode is directed by Assad Kawada, um, and so and so we've spoken about his name a few times. But I did want to actually sort of recap just the amount of episodes that we've spoken about on this channel that he has directed.
Okay.
Okay, so he has directed the graduation episodes, part one and part two, at the end of season four, the beginning of season five episodes, Brave New World, parts one and part two, and Gamma Gamma or Bust,
Hmm.
and also the Halloween show and the Christmas show, all in this season. In addition to the Facts of Life Goes to Paris.
Yeah, so apparently we like his episodes.
Yes, and then outside of the Facts of Life, we have spoken about the pilot episode of Family Ties, in which he has directed.
All right, sounds good, Brandon. Do we have any other connections?
Yes, we do. But before I leave off of that note, the reason as to why I recap them, because I know I recapped this at the beginning of the last video we made, is that this is actually the last episode of our series in which he is directed.
Oh, oh wow. Okay,
Yeah, so I believe that his final directing time for The Facts of Life is in this season, season five.
okay, got it.
But yeah, so definitely I wanted to make sure to note about that, and then sort of continuing on, we do have some other connections as well.
All righty, go ahead.
Okay, so and actually, as a correction, his last time directing was season 6, but this is the last one we're discussing. But the other connection is with Andy Borowitz,
Okay.
and so of course we recognize him from also his work on Day by Day and with The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and so he was the executive story editor for Gamma Gamma or Bust and the Halloween Show for The Facts of Life.
Okay.
He's also the executive producer for the first 3 seasons of Fresh Prince of Bel Air and the executive consultant for seasons 2 through 6.
All right.
Yes, and then he wrote the teleplay for the episode Gamma Gamma or Buzz. So truly, you can sort of see the sort of commonalities, and the Facts of Life does choose oftentimes like a similar group of writers and directors, especially per season. And then the only other connection we have, at least explicitly, is that of course the series is produced by Norman Lear's production company, and for seasons 4 through 7 is labeled as NBC Television. The first 3 seasons, it was as TAT Communications.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good, Brandon.
Was there anything else, Mom, that you want to discuss for this episode?
No, now there wasn't anything else I wanted to discuss about this episode. Y'all let us know in the comments. What were your thoughts of Kelly? Do you remember her as a character on Facts of Life? So we'd love to know your thoughts.
Yes, definitely. If you feel that there was another episode in which she was more heavily featured or had a more, I guess, redemptive side, please feel free to let us know.
Yes, please let us know. We thank everybody for watching today.
And we look forward to seeing you next time.
All right, bye bye, everybody.